Hello, my name is TJ Wolf. I'm currently a PhD student and technology coach at NC State University. This is Catch System. Catch System serves students and teachers in digital learning and productivity. To start off with, let's look at an example. This is Tyler. Tyler is, well, quite the catch. Not only, obviously, is he handsome, but like many middle schoolers and people his age, he knows everything. There isn't an answer he doesn't know, or a question you can ask where he can't tell you something. Well, maybe there's one thing that he can't tell you, something that he couldn't possibly know. Like many young people, his future's bright, but he can't quite predict it. There's no way to really know what's going to happen. So he can't really know what career he's going to go into. He doesn't really know what work he's going to do. The reason for this is fairly simple. The world is flat. He's going to be competing for many jobs in the future. And not only is he going to be competing for those who are close to him in his community, like in the old days, but in the future he's going to be competing with folks that are around the state, around the country, and also around the world. He's going to be competing for jobs with people from India and places in Europe and all over the world. And we know this because Thomas Friedman told us about it in his book all about how the world is flat. And also, if you know anything about Carl Fish in his Did You Know 2.0 video, he talked about how we're currently preparing students for jobs and technologies that don't yet exist. So if Tyler does know everything, except for what he's going to do in the future, but we're trying to help prepare him for a job that doesn't yet exist, we have to ask ourselves this next question. What do we do? How do we prepare him for a future and a job that we don't know exists yet? Well, how about we catch Tyler? In order to catch Tyler and prepare him for this future, first we need to have teachers have a simple and effective and efficient system. Remember, Catch System serves students and teachers in digital learning and productivity. So first and foremost, we need to serve students. After all, they are our future. We are giving them knowledge and trying to educate them in order to make this world a better place. So those are our main focuses, to serve and to serve students. But in order to do that, we need to give teachers the tools and all the systems in order to help these students. So what we're going to do is talk about the Catch System and its 5 components: messaging, productivity, documents, sites, and media. These are the 5 components. I want to talk about them one at a time. So let's focus in on the first one, which is messaging. This is going to be our base, or our starting point, and we're going to build up from there. From messaging, we're going to move up to what I think is possibly the most important part of this entire system. It's the key to all of it, and we're going to talk about that. It's productivity. And then we're going to build up from there. As you'll notice at the top, we have the 3 last pieces. We have sites, documents, and media. Notice they're all sort of on the same plane. We're going to talk about why that is a little bit later on. So again, let's look at messaging. This is our first of the 5 components. So if we were to put these into steps, step number 1 would be to start a messaging system. Now, messaging systems kind of started out this way, with a teacher and a desk. And typically what they would do is create an assignment and have students work on it. When students were finished, they would bring their assignment up to the desk, hand it in, and when the teacher was ready, they would grade it. The teacher would then put it back in a box or a certain place, and students would grab it and take it with them and see how they did. This was a fairly efficient and good system for exchanging ideas, because that's really what education's all about. We're exchanging information. We're exchanging messages. And so this was one system. We have other systems. So we have this one, and we sort of have another one. So when we think of messaging nowadays, we often think of email. Email is a great place to exchange ideas and messages. And with the advent of all this new technology, we can exchange messages at faster and faster rates. And so if this is sort of the old school, this would be considered the new school. Now don't get me wrong, there isn't one that's best for everybody. You sort of choose what works for you. And so I don't want to say old school as in bad and new school as in good, but it's just a messaging system. If one works better for you, start with that one. But let's look at this new one a little bit closer. Many of us are familiar with Gmail, and some of you are familiar with all the functions that it has. Great thing about Gmail or Google is that it has a wonderful search built right in. Google was founded on search. The information that we want at the tip of our fingertips. Some other features include tasks. You can keep track of things that you need to do, next actions or projects that you're working on. And it also has calendar and chat. You can keep up with your calendar and even chat with folks that are also on the Gmail platform. It's a wonderful use of technology, has wonderful things built in, and it is absolutely free. A wonderful system, a wonderful thing to start with and to use, especially in education. In order for our teachers to prepare young people for the future, they have to get on top of this technology now. They need to be using what many of our young people are using, and they're using it very well. So we know about Google. A lot of us know about all the functions. We're not going to get into all of them, but you know a lot of them. We have Maps, we have Google Talk, there's Picasso that shares photos, we have Finance, we have many, many functions that Google has, and of course they are all free. And so if we take messaging and we look back at our Tyler example, right now we're catching Tyler because many of our young people and middle schoolers, they already use email. They're pretty good at chat. They may use calendars and tasks, and they may know Talk and Search and Maps, all these things they kind of do on a regular basis. So as teachers, if we are going to help prepare these young people for the future, we need to start catching up with them, and having a good sound and solid messaging system will do that. So now let's go back to our components. Again, we're going to focus on productivity, which I said earlier was probably the most important part of this. It's absolutely the key to this system. So let's talk about this a little bit. Again, if we had our steps, this would be number 2. We need to incorporate a productivity system. And if we can be productive with all the things that go on in a classroom as a teacher, we can go about the business of trying to help these students and young people being successful in the future. So let's examine how we can be productive, or how we can learn to be more productive. In this example, let's first look at the top. In life, we tend to have things that come at us. It comes at us in all different directions. We have email, we have telephone calls, we have people coming in and stopping by our offices or our classrooms or at our desks. We have all sorts of things coming at us, whether it's with our jobs or our personal lives. Things come at us. The best thing we can do, and the best way to prepare and deal with all these things, is to start to gather them. Try to gather them in one place so that we can make decisions on them and decide what best to do. So if we start to gather things, the next thing to do is make a decision. And if anything comes at us, we have to decide whether we can do something about it. And that's typically a yes or a no. So if something comes at us and we have to make a decision, let's start with no. If I say there's nothing I can do about this, if somebody brings me something, it's just a piece of information, they just want me to know, then I have to decide one of two other things. Number one, I can either delete it because I won't need it. I found out about it or I read it and that's all I need to know. I can delete it and throw it in the trash. I'm done. Or I can file this away because perhaps I may need it later. If somebody hands me a sheet of paper and I think, that's good information, I may need to pull it out again later, then I'm going to file it into a filing system. It's always great to have a filing system. A good A to Z filing system and a good filing cabinet so that we can go back and find it very easily later could be a lifesaver, especially if you're a teacher. So that's what happens if we say no. If we say yes, somebody hands me some information or tells me something or something comes at me and I say yes, I can or I should do something about it, well then we have 3 options. The first thing we can do is, well, we do it. We do something about it right then. We complete the task now. If it takes less than 2 minutes and there's one step, there's no reason why we shouldn't try to complete it right then. Another question we can ask ourselves is, am I the right person to do this job or complete this task? If I'm not, then I can delegate it to someone else. Also, I may defer it. It could be something that takes more than 2 minutes or takes more than one step. In that case, I need to make a project out of it so that later on I can get to work on it and get started. Or if somebody hands me some information that I can't deal with now, they need me to do it in the future, say a week from now, I can just put that on my calendar. That way it's off my mind, I don't have to think about it, it's on my calendar and I check that just about every day and it's finished. Or I could put it on an action list. If it's something I can't do now, as in I'm a classroom teacher and I'm in the middle of teaching a class, and it's something I can't do right now, as in possibly call the parent of one of my students. I can do that right after school. So I can write that down, put it on a next action list. That way, when I'm done with class or school day is over and I have some time to do a few things and get a few things done, I can look at my action list and notice, well, I have to call that student's parent, pull out my list, and there it's done. So this, again, is the key to the entire system. If we can get this down, even if you can start doing this with your email, it would be great. You get an email, you make a decision on it, you either complete it now, you delegate it to someone else, you put it on a project list or your calendar, or make an next action list, or you delete it or file it. Try this with your email. I guarantee you'll be more productive. So the great thing again about creating and starting a messaging system, especially with Google, is you can keep things nice and neat. Imagine if this is your desk. Imagine if this is your classroom. This is not productive. This is not clean and neat. You make better decisions and you're a better teacher if you can keep things nice and neat. So couldn't you make better decisions with a nice, clean desk? Some people have to make very important decisions. I would suggest being and staying productive. So now, the most important part, the key to this entire system is productivity. So now, imagine if Tyler could be productive. Imagine if Tyler knew how to do this in his daily life. If he could delete things that he didn't need or file them away in a filing system, or if he could do the things that he needed to do now, or delegate and defer. If middle schoolers, if young people could really know and be able to delegate and defer things, what great young people they would be. So now that we as teachers are being productive, we're starting to catch up with Tyler. So now we're almost on the same level and we're all being very, very productive.